making all kind of weird decisions. Brought all the light from the sky, seeing change as my knees are falling down through the praying ground. Holy mind, grabbed hold of my soul for God. Gonna live for God. It's been a time I should have not lived true. Ought to be lying in the cold, cold ground instead of knocking along this highway, leaning on God's holy word. So I pray to the Lord in heaven, forgive this wicked fool. Holy mind, grab hold of your soul, oh yeah. Gonna live for God. Oh Lord, forgive me. Oh Lord, have mercy. Please, Lord, forgive me. Lord, have mercy. Gonna live for God. I got some work to get to working on. Lost a lot of time in a coal mine hell. Made my soul grow wise and strong. Live in a house made of stone. Let him in, all you weary pilgrims, head for the praying ground. Holy mind, grab hold of your soul, oh yeah. Gonna live for God. Oh Lord, forgive me. Oh Lord, have mercy. Please, Lord, forgive me. Lord, have mercy. Gonna live for God. Gonna live for God. Gonna live for God. So that was my version of a great Kelly Joe Phelps song called Down to the Praying Ground. And you can find it on his last CD, which was published around 2012. So he's been quiet for 5 years. He's completely gone from the radar and taken a break from music, which I think is very sad, and let's hope he comes back soon. This song is in open G tuning, so we have D, D, B, G, D, G again, and D. So you lower your first, fifth and sixth strings a full tone. And first I should talk about a few technical details of his slide playing, his upright slide playing, because he's also a great lap slide player. But to get his sound you need to take care of a few things. First of all, the slide. A heavy slide will help to get that clean sound. You may have listened to him and he has a very clean sound. There's no buzzing. And a heavy slide might help. He uses a Big Heart Robert Johnson slide. So the brand is Big Heart and the model is Robert Johnson. I don't know which size he uses because they are available in several sizes. And he also put some gaffer's tape inside the slides so that it sits snug, I suppose. And I don't do that same, but my slide is tapered inside. So you see there's much more material on this side than this side. So it sits really snug, and even it hardly drops. Well, my finger's a bit sweaty of course now. So that's a good thing. My slide is a Daddyslide, made by Daddyslide, no relation, and I've put the link to their websites in the video description. Then he puts his slide in his pinky, and for his style I think that's the best solution, because he does a lot of fingering between slide playing, and in his case it helps, and also because he uses sometimes behind the slide fretting, while the slide is on the frets. In the bridge of this song we're going to see that, so it might be helpful if you put it on your pinky. I'm so used to put it on my ring finger that well, I'm not going to change at this age, so I kept it there, but some things are more difficult, I can imagine. Then he uses very heavy strings, heavy gauge strings, medium gauge, and he changes the first and the second string to a 16 and an 18. Now you don't need to buy a set medium strings and then change those first two strings. There are sets that have the configurations that he uses. For example, the Dario EJ42 and also Martin Bluegrass Rezo strings, I think the medium size. They start with a 16 and 18 and so on. So heavy gauge strings are really helpful to get his clean slide. He also plays with a very light touch. Listen to his recordings of this song and others as well where he plays slide. You hardly hear his bass strings. They are there, but they are not prominent. So he's muting and playing with a light touch. And well, the last part is of course muting with his left and right hand. I'm going to give you an example of the first couple bars without any muting at all. It's pretty horrible, I think. So first of all, his right hand, he's playing like that. So he's slightly muting after he picked the string open. Sometimes, well, when he plays live, for example, on the 5th fret, he's not muting at all because the sound is already a bit muffled there. But when the strings are open, he's certainly muting and keeping it quiet like that. So slightly touching. You cannot with a resonator put your hand on the bridge because it's too far away and too high. So he's hovering over the strings like that, and with this side of his palm he's slightly muting. The left hand he's muting with his index finger. It's slightly resting on the strings like that. Not pressing, just slightly resting, that you kill the sounds. And just to give you an example of how effective this is, you have the most buzzing at the 12th fret because the string length is equal on both sides. So without any muting at all, and with muting. So you hear the difference very clearly. And for example, that first part. Here, very soft and lightly played. The song uses an alternating bass throughout, going from the 5th to the 4th string to the 6th string, 4th string, so 6, so 5, 4, 6, 4, 5, 4, 6, 4. Except there are places where it doesn't do that, where it picks between the 5th and the 4th, but that's indicated in the tab, and that's what I want to tell you also. I made a tab of my version, which is slightly different than his, and you can download that for free. There's a link to that tab in the video description. The song has been tabbed and discussed in Acoustic Guitar magazine, and you still can get that as a back issue. digital, so it costs you maybe $7. So the tap is there, more or less of the full song. Well, not all the verses, of course, but also with indication of the vocal line, which might be helpful for you. I put some lyrics under the tap, but if you listen to his songs, his versions of this song, and there are I think about 6 or 7 on YouTube. I put some interesting versions also in the video description, and he doesn't improvise on the song. Well, there are parts where he really goes to town, and I'm not going to do that. But the basic arrangement stays the same the whole, well, whenever he plays it. But in the vocals, he improvises quite a bit. Not with different words, the words stay the same, but the accents are very different from, well, the moment he was playing it and the way he was feeling it. For example, there was a version which he recorded in Holland, far away from home, and I think it shows in his delivery of the vocals. Okay, so get the tap. I'm gonna teach this according to my tap, and we'll start with the introduction. He does a different introduction every time when he plays it, and in the Acoustic Guitar magazine there is the introduction which he plays on the CD. So the Acoustic Guitar tap is exactly how he plays it on the CD. In my opinion, with a bit too many notes, because he plays sometimes notes that are not melody notes. So you could, if you, well, regard them wrong, then your arrangement will not sound good. Okay, what I did was, as introduction, I stated, well, the theme of Down to the Playing Ground, which I play fully with a slide, and he does with fingering, by the way. Well, partly. But I play it like this. And I'm going to explain also how I mute this, and I think that's also important. I'm not sure how he does it, but this is the way I do it. I pick the first string, sliding to the 3rd fret with my middle finger, and then when I'm going to pick the 2nd string, sliding to the 3rd fret, I rest my middle finger on the 1st string, so that the sound is muted, like that. And the moment I hit it, I mute. So you don't have clashing sound. Otherwise that sound of the 1st string will ring true, and the 2nd note will be, well, it will be 2 notes you hear. That's the way I do it. And then when I play the 3rd note on the 1st fret, 2nd string, I use my index finger, sorry, my 2nd finger to pick it, and when I go to the 3rd string, 5th fret, I rest my 2nd finger on that 1st pick note. These are the same notes. And it's because you can slide to the 5th fret that it sounds a bit different, but you need to mute, especially here, because otherwise you're going to get that. This is muted. So. And when I go back here, I slightly, this is another way of muting, I slightly, in slow motion, it would look like this. I lift the slide, and then I lift slightly. I don't lift it, I let the, well, the muting index finger kill the sound. Because that little trick of muting with the middle finger, it only works when you're going upwards. Well, for me anyway. So that's a little thing on the side. And here we start the rhythm. And I'm gonna play the intro slowly. And the construction of the song is, well, fairly simple. You have the intro, which is repeated after every verse, after every verse with vocals. And then we have a bridge, which is also repeated twice, after, again, that intro, signature intro, let's call it like that. Okay, here we go. So we're starting with a slide to the 3rd fret, 2nd string, and you see the position of the slide. And don't block all the strings, because we need that bass. It needs to go freely. And this is fingered. By the way, I put in the tab the F of fingered, so there's no slide used, and you need to fret that with your fingers there. It's all indicated in the tab. Notice that I'm especially muting that last beat, like that. Slightly, and to get a little swing, I accent often the 2nd and the 4th beat, especially when it's with open strings. And when there's not much happening on the trebles as well. And I let this ring into the next beats. This one. This is fingered also. And I slide here in the 4th bar into that C chord, which is, well, fretted like a C7 without the 5th string, and I slide into the 1st and 2nd frets, and he does a hammer on, and a quick slide to the 4th fret, 3rd string. And in the vocal verses I often accented that a little bit more when I sing Gonna Live With God, for example. With God. And then we're repeating the whole thing. And then we slide to the 8th fret. And you notice that, well, it slides the next beat to the almost 9th fret. It's not exactly the 9th fret, because that's too much. It's just past, let's say, 3.5 or 2/3 of the next fret further than the 8th fret, like that. And I always move like that with my slide to get a little bit more feeling, but you can do that, of course, by going up and down. But for me it helps. Okay, we were at the 6th measure. And then we finger. 5, 6, open, 1st fret, 3rd fret. And then again with the slide. Repeat the whole thing. Also try, when removing the slide, like that, to avoid that open sound. And you can, well, it doesn't work always, of course, but by removing the slide before your muting fingers slightly, you get that clean sound instead of this. Alright, so we're repeating the whole thing again. And then the second time we'll linger a little bit longer on that 5th fret, and we start the vocals. And the vocal accompaniment is slightly, well, different than the introduction, but uses the same chords, so to speak. So here we go for the vocals. So many years, I'll sing softly. So many years that on a hollow road, know the old blood running through my veins, making all kind of weird decisions, got all the light from the sky, seeing change as my knees are falling down to the playground. Okay, so the same thing as introduction. and then sliding into the 3rd fret, 3rd string, and hammer on 1st to 2nd frets. And then with the pinky, well, in my case, if you put your slide on the 4th finger, it's your 3rd finger, of course. Go to in the 15th measure. And this is fretted, and then with a slide. And here I try to avoid that open slide feel. There's no, that sound is lacking, so it stays clean. So we had that 20th measure, 19th measure. And here I follow the vocal line. And in the 2nd verse, where it is, I have to check it. So this wicked, I rest a very little bit. And then we have sort of, well, a little bridge there, bar 25. And then we have the introduction all over again. And I'll do that the 2nd part with vocals. Knees are falling down to the program, holding mine, grab hold of my soul, for God. Gonna live for God. That's introduction. Second verse, where we once more do the whole verse, do the whole introduction again, and when we I'll land it on the 11th bar of the introduction. Let me go the 2nd time through. We go to the bridge. Adjust my papers a little bit, and I'll do that slowly first. Again, that's the introduction. So the bridge there uses is behind the slide playing, and it starts in the 30th bar 2nd beat, where you put your finger, your index finger, on the 6th fret, and you keep the slide on the 8th fret. So without the finger you get the 8th fret, and with the finger on the 6th fret 2nd string you get that lower. Takes a while to get that, of course. And that's fingered. Slide again. behind the slide. Also note that the alternating bass pattern is slightly changed there, and he introduces that 6th string in the 31st measure, as well as the 33rd and the 35th. So it's a nice little touch. At first, that last note of the 30th bar, to get that in time, that will be well, tricky, and it asks some practice. And it's well, I play it as lightly as possible to keep it clean. The bass is muted there. Then we go to the 3rd fret in the 36th bar, 3rd fret, 5th and 3rd string. And then slide to the 7th fret, and notice the position of the slide, the bass strings are open again. And we we use the fretting index finger to play that 6th and 5th fret. Those notes are fretted. So the 37 bar, and then it does something different here with more fingering, but I kept it like that. Well, the way I play it in the 38 bar. And if you want it needs to ring a little bit more, well, into the next beat. You keep your finger on that 5th fret 3rd string while, and when you go up and down, then I release that 3rd string. Accent those basses. Well, that's the way I do it. He doesn't do it. And also, this is different what I do. He does something like, he goes back, and he doesn't linger there. I well, linger there a little bit for dramatic effect. Sorry, and slide to the 7th fret, and then we have the introduction again. So I'll play the bridge one more time, and I'll do it with vocals. Notice that slow slide up to the 3rd fret, and so on. So that's pretty much the arrangement, I guess. After the last time he does the bridge, he plays the introduction. Gonna live for God. He does that movement. He sings "Gonna Live for God." Gonna live for God. Gonna live for God. And then he slows down, and then he really goes to town. It is tapped out what he does on the recording of the CD. In the Acoustic Guitar magazine version tap, but I didn't bother to learn that. So I did like that, lingered here a bit using the slide noise, and then went down, and I played hammer on, open, 2nd, 3rd fret, 6th string, 5th string, 4th string, and I did the same starting at the 5th fret. And the same starting at the 4th fret, 4th fret, 3rd fret, and starting at the 1st fret of the 2nd string. And then to slide to the 3rd fret. So slide at 3rd fret and then so I picked the 3rd fret, the first 2 strings. All the strings are open. I did one variation with the he doesn't do as well. Leaning on God's holy words. And that is where I'll check the tab which measure that rightly is. In the verse that is the 19th measure, where cut all the lights from the sky, and I did simply sliding 2nd and 3rd string, and then go on, and keeping it clean as well. So there you have it, Down to the Praying Ground. Listen to his renditions on YouTube, they're fantastic. And he's a fantastic player. Wish he would start over again. Well, continue his recording and playing and performing. So, have fun with this Kelly Joe Phelps lesson.